This has been a transformation under the manager Ange Postecoglou, which most Celtic fans are raving about. He can do no wrong at the moment. And Callum McGregor, the Celtic captain, said after the game that he could tell by the players he was bringing in, he knew the manager wanted to win the title this season.
When I seen this group of players come in and train, I knew very quickly that it wasn't a transition for us. We were wanting to win. The players were hungry to win. The manager's super hungry. That's the demands that he puts on the group, and we just seem to be getting sort of better, and we're facing more challenges together as a group. And I think when you do that, then you give yourself a real good base for the season, and that's where we are just now. But we understand there's still a lot of football to be played.
Well, the pivotal moment, I think, is when you look at the shaky start. People are thinking he's coming off the back of the debacle of Eddie Howe. People are wondering, what is he going to offer? They've had a shaky start, but then slowly but surely in a number of games, you started to see the way he wanted them to play. And then suddenly he was asking players that he'd inherited to respond to that style, and players that he brought in. And remember, of course, the real bonus for him is he was able to, he was continually on the case of the Celtic board saying, look, I need players in quickly.
Yeah, and I think he's got to take enormous credit for that, because I think a lot of the players are brought in by Postecoglou. There's no director of football at Celtic. I think he's done most of the signings. Whereas at Rangers, have obviously got a team. Ross Wilson's there, and they identify targets. But Postecoglou's went to the board and says, listen, I've got these guys from Japan. You can come over and they can go straight into the team. And they're not, as Callum McGregor touched on there, they're no squad fillers. They're not just going to come in and be on the bench. They're going to come in and challenge for a starting place. And I think that's been crucial. Kyogo, Maeda, brilliant players. And guys like that have come into the team and really improved Celtic. So, no, I think he's done a brilliant job, and I think he's got the trust of the board now. I think if he goes in the summer and says, right, I want this, this and that, I think they'll be willing to give him the money, because they've seen the players that he's brought in, and they know they can trust him.
But the way, even, after the bad start, 6 games, lost 3 of those, his demeanour never changed. He was very relaxed. He was kind of saying to the press, guys, calm down, it's a long season.
Yeah.
And that, you can see that's obviously, he's brought that message over to the players. Look, it's 6 games. Just we know we're building towards something. There's been a lot of changes. He's asking, his fullbacks to play in unusual positions. Ralston, who I think has thrived when he plays, but it was going to take time. And I think his calm demeanour, his obviously knowing that his philosophy works, the way he wants to play works, and it has worked with other teams. He knew that it would come good, and as Tam says, he's certainly got an eye for a player, because you're looking at just now how much Rangers miss Morelos. Kyogo's every bit as good, but Celtic don't miss him halfway as much as Rangers miss Morelos, because they've got Giakoumakis to come in, Maeda to come in, other players who can fill that void. And I think that's testament to Postecoglou and how good he is at spotting a player.
Yeah, and early on, Tam, when it wasn't looking good in Europe, and I have to say, having watched a number of league games and then watched them in Europe, you actually got to the point where I was looking continually at the back line. I mean, I think early on, most of us were looking and saying, okay, you're building your side, that's fine. Sometimes managers paint a picture that it's not the game that you've watched. So I have asked them about, the back line and some of the chances they were giving up, most notably against Hearts, and then in the European games. Starfelt, you could actually hear the crowd go when he got the ball in the early part of the season, but slowly but surely he settled down to form a partnership with the star of the show, which is Cameron Carter-Vickers.
No, I think he's got a settled back form now, and I think that was always a problem with Celtic. We've seen him going away to Betis and Leverkusen and going ahead and thinking, just shut up shop, do something, just tighten it up, but they couldn't. They were bringing on, no disrespect, guys like Welsh and Montgomery was playing, and guys like that, they had no strength and depth. So after 60, 70 minutes, when they players were knackered, he was looking at the bench and there was nothing there. He was just throwing in boys for the sake of it. So I think he's now got a strong pool of players now that he can chop and change, but his back four's been really, really steady, and Joe Hart's been excellent as well. So I think that foundation, we always thought, Celtic will score a lot of goals but conceding a lot of goals, but defensively, over the last 3 or 4 months, they've been outstanding. They've been really, really good. And Starfelt, as you said, got off to a shaky start, and a lot of Celtic fans thought he was a bit of a bomb scare, to be honest, but he's come onto a game as well, beside Carter-Vickers, who's been probably the player of the season for me.
Yeah, and looking at his stats as well, Carter-Vickers, I think, topped off by scoring a goal in an Old Firm game, which always endears you to the supporters. But games played, 38 minutes played, 3,440, scored 4 goals, 69% of tackles won, duels won 234, clearances 165.
65 of them on Sunday.
I was just about to say, headers won 74%, interceptions 45, blocks won 17, pass completion 89%, long passes 155, short ones 2,815, and I think 2,800 of them have been to Starfelt as they play that along that back line repeatedly. But it just shows you how a defender's life, as you know, is analysed.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, his passing accuracy, like you say, is 89% because he tends to go, short to Starfelt. But in saying that, because the fullbacks go narrow, they're often left, and it's more difficult for Starfelt on the left-hand side because he's right-footed, but they're often left with a difficult pass to the wide player. Now, when it works and they get it to the wide player early, and I think we've seen Greg Taylor run through on goal because it works out really well. Ball goes to Jota, flipped in behind, but that's a difficult pass. But the two of them have dealt with it. They've dealt with the fact that a lot of times they're 2 for 2 at the back. They're both quick. They're both strong. And yes, I still feel that on the ball, Starfelt he does look a bit nervous, whereas Carter-Vickers looks completely composed. But as defenders, as centre backs, I think they're both excellent. I think they've got pace, they've got aggression, they win their headers, as we've seen there. They win loads of tackles, and I just think they've been a great addition to Celtic, and to get him on a permanent deal will be a huge move for Celtic.
And you look at the stats as far as goals conceded, they've only conceded 19 goals in 32 league games, Tam.
It's pretty good, in terms of the way Celtic play. They're very open and expansive, and they're always going to, opponents are always going to create opportunities against them. But as Richard says, they leave 2v2 at the back. They trust the two centre halves, to handle usually one striker. If you play against Celtic Rangers, most of the teams out with Rangers we just play one up front and kind of pack the midfield and the defence. So no, I think they've been brilliant. And listen, Celtic supporters will be desperate to get him on a permanent deal. I don't know how much Tottenham will be looking for. Can he go and play in the Premier League? Probably. It's just up to him. Does he fancy a crack at the Champions League, or does he going to go and take the cash and go back down to England?
Yeah, well, the reports are that Burnley, Leicester and Wolverhampton Wanderers are looking at him, but can Celtic just steal a march on them all and get in there with a deal that will be acceptable to Tottenham Hotspur?
If Rodgers takes him.
Yeah.
I don't get that. Those teams you've listed, was it Leicester, Burnley and Wolves?
Yeah.
I personally don't get why you'd leave Celtic to go and play at those clubs.
Yeah,
stay Celtic, win championships, play in the Champions League. You know what I mean? I just think go and play in the Champions League and do well, and you'll get a better move than a Wolves or a Burnley.
Yeah.
I agree with you too, but Leicester, I'd maybe go to Leicester.
Yeah.
I think you could get 80 grand a week at Leicester. How much would they get at Celtic? 30.
Well, exactly. I think
You'd win things.
You're not going to go.
I'd take the money.
Would you? Yeah.
I'm a mercenary. You know that anyway.
The other thing about it as well, which Richard doesn't know because he's only early in the door, he doesn't know the type of rat you are when it comes to money. We only have to ask Terry Butcher about you and your dealings in the transfer market. But nevertheless, it's a short career. The Cameron Carter-Vickers will have. I'm in your camp. How much is enough with regards to it? He might be able to play Champions League, get an even bigger move, and it's always a good test of how good you really are.